A woman wrote to me last week. I'll call her Diane. She said, Luna, I've been trying to feel ready for everything that's coming in spring. The equinox, Aries season, all of it. I've been reading the astrology, setting my intentions, doing my rituals, and I just feel stuck. Like I'm standing at a door I know I need to walk through and I can't figure out why my feet won't move. What am I missing? I want to share what I told Diane, because when I read her message, I felt something immediately. Not because her situation was unusual, but because it was so precisely, so accurately, the spiritual experience of the moment we are all in right now, collectively, astrologically. Diane isn't stuck because she isn't ready. Diane is standing at a door that she needs to walk through, and she's trying to walk through it while still carrying everything from the room behind her. And the new moon in Pisces on March 18th, 2026, at 28 degrees and 26 minutes of Pisces at 9:23 in the evening Eastern Time is the universe's answer to exactly that situation. I'm Luna Solano. I've been watching these cycles for 40 years, and the new moon in Pisces is one of the most underestimated, most misunderstood lunations in the entire annual cycle. People tend to experience it as vague or foggy or not particularly actionable, and then they wonder why the Aries season that follows doesn't feel as ignited as they hoped. This is why I had to record this today. Because what I want to tell you about this new moon, and about Diane's experience, and about the specific thing that Pisces is asking you to surrender before March 20th's equinox opens the door, this is the piece that most people miss. And it is, in my experience, the single most important piece of the entire cosmic sequence we are moving through right now. If you've been feeling, like Diane, that you're almost ready but not quite, that there is something at the threshold between the winter you've been moving through and the spring that's approaching, you are not imagining it. The stars confirm exactly what you've been sensing. There is something, and today I'm going to name it. Before we go deeper, if this community has been a place of genuine cosmic clarity for you, please share this video with someone who you feel is standing at the same threshold as Diane. And if you're new here, subscribing means I'll be in your corner through every transit that matters this year. Let me tell you what I found when I looked at the chart for this new moon, because the numbers matter and the context is everything. The new moon in Pisces occurs on March 18th, 2026 at 28 degrees and 26 minutes of Pisces. 28 degrees Pisces. Not yet the 29th, not yet the final degree, but already in what astrologers call the last decan of Pisces, the last 10 degrees of the last sign of the entire zodiac. And what that means, in the language of cycles and symbolism that I have been studying for 4 decades, is this. We are at the very last chapter of the very last book of the Cosmic Library. Everything the Zodiac has to offer, all 12 signs worth of experience and growth and transformation, arrives at its culmination in these final degrees of Pisces. And the new moon at 28 degrees is the dark moon moment, the new beginning of that culmination. It is the seed being planted at the very threshold between everything that has been and everything that is about to begin. The Sabian symbol for 29 degrees of Pisces, the degree we are approaching, the degree this new moon is pointing toward, is one I consider among the most beautiful and most precisely meaningful in the entire collection. A prism. Light enters the prism as undifferentiated white light, the whole spectrum undivided, everything present but not yet distinct. And the prism refracts it into all the colors of the visible spectrum: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. What was one becomes many. What was present but invisible becomes visible and differentiated. Each color reveals what was always there in the light, but had not yet been separated out into something the eye could see. This is the Pisces new moon's gift, not a new beginning in the Aries sense, not the ignition of something brand new that hasn't existed before, but the revelation of what was already present in you, undifferentiated, held in potential, waiting for the right refraction to become visible. The colors that the prism reveals were always in the light. They were always there. The prism doesn't add anything, it reveals. And the new moon at 28 Pisces, 2 days before the spring equinox, is the prism moment. It is the last lunation before the New Year's ignition. It is the moment when what has been building underground in you throughout this entire extraordinary cosmic season, the Saturn-Neptune restructuring, the eclipse clearing, the Venus restart, the internal Piscean review of Mercury retrograde, is refracted into something you can actually see and name and carry forward. When I looked at Diane's situation, her sense of almost readiness, of standing at the door with something still holding her back, I recognized it immediately as the experience of someone who is trying to carry the previous cycle's weight into the new one, not out of stubbornness, not out of unwillingness to change, but out of a very human, very understandable tendency to bring everything along, to not lose anything, to not leave anything behind that might still be useful, to enter the new chapter fully provisioned with everything from the old one. And what the new moon in Pisces is asking, what it always asks in the final degrees of the final sign, is whether you are willing to trust the new chapter enough to arrive at it less loaded than you arrived at the last one. Pisces is the sign of surrender, not surrender as defeat, surrender as the conscious, chosen releasing of control over what you were never actually controlling, the releasing of the grip on outcomes that were never fully in your hands, the dissolving, Neptune's dissolving, Pisces dissolving, of the things you have been holding on to that would prevent you from receiving what the new cycle is preparing. Diane's feet won't move, not because she isn't ready. Her feet won't move because the things she is still holding, the stories about what didn't work, the self-protective beliefs formed from previous hurts, the accumulated evidence she has built up over the years about why hope should be careful. Those things are filling her hands, and you cannot reach for a new beginning when your hands are full. The more I looked at what Diane described, and the more I recognized it in the letters from dozens of other people writing to me in this same window, the more clearly I could see the 3 specific things this new moon in Pisces is asking to be surrendered. Not everything, not a wholesale clearing. 3 specific things that are, based on everything I've observed across 40 years of watching Pisces new moons, the most common forms of weight that prevent people from walking fully through the Aries door. The first thing this new moon is asking you to surrender is the story of what didn't work and why it means what you think it means. Here is what I mean by this. Everyone who arrives at a Pisces new moon is arriving with evidence. Evidence about love, about what happened the last time you opened, the last time you were honest, the last time you trusted. Evidence about work, about the project that didn't land, the opportunity that didn't materialize, the effort that wasn't rewarded in proportion to its investment. Evidence about yourself, about what you tried and couldn't maintain, what you hoped for and didn't receive, what you reached for and missed. That evidence is real. I'm not asking you to pretend it isn't. The losses were real. The disappointments were real. What Pisces new moon is asking is whether the story you've built from that evidence, the narrative about what the evidence means, is still serving you. Because evidence can be interpreted in more than one way. The same set of facts that supports the story, I try and I fail, and that is the pattern, also supports the story, I have been preparing for something I wasn't yet ready for, and now I am. The same experiences that built the belief people I love leave also built the capacity for depth of love that makes you the person you are. The Pisces new moon is not asking you to deny the evidence. It is asking you to release the interpretation that limits what the evidence can build toward. Diane's story included a divorce several years ago and a professional disappointment that came not long after. She told me she'd done a lot of work on both, and I believed her. The work was real. What she hadn't yet surrendered was the meta story. The story that said, these things happen because I make choices that don't work out, and I should be more careful next time than I was last time. That meta-story, that layer of self-protective narrative built from real evidence but oriented towards safety rather than truth, that is what the new moon is asking her to set down. You're not imagining the sense that something needs to be released before Aries season. You are right. The thing that needs to be released is not the experience. It is the limitation you've built around your future from the evidence of your past. The second thing this new moon is asking to be surrendered, and this one I find the most practically important for the specific cosmic moment we're in, is the need to know how it works before you begin. This is particularly significant in 2026 because of what Saturn and Neptune have been doing. One of the things a Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries does is dissolve the maps. The established frameworks, the ways of getting from here to there that worked under the previous structure, are in the process of being replaced by something new. And one of the most common responses to that dissolving of the maps is to wait, to not move until you have a reliable route, to hold at the threshold of the new chapter until you can see how the new chapter is going to go. But the new moon in Pisces at 28 degrees, 2 days before the spring equinox, is saying something very specific about that waiting. It is saying the map for the new chapter is not going to be available before you begin. It is going to be available as you begin. Pisces doesn't navigate by map. Pisces navigates by current, by the felt sense of what is drawing you forward, by the direction in which the energy naturally moves when you release your grip on directing it. And the specific gift of this new moon at the degree of the prism is that what you need to see, the colors that have been in the light all along, will become visible in the process of moving, not before it. Diane had told me she was waiting to feel more certain before she took the next step in her creative work. She had a project she'd been developing for 2 years. She had almost taken it to people who could help bring it forward several times, and each time something, not external circumstances, but an internal not yet, had stopped her. I told her, the not yet feeling you're experiencing is Pisces doing its final work before Aries. It is dissolving the need for certainty as a prerequisite for beginning. The equinox is 2 days away. You are not waiting for more certainty. You are waiting to release the requirement for it. The signal that this message is reaching you. You may have noticed in recent weeks an increasing inability to maintain your usual level of waiting for certainty comfort. Things that used to feel adequately certain before you acted have begun to feel like insufficient justification for continued waiting. That discomfort is Pisces doing its dissolving work. It is removing the comfortable distance between you and the unknown beginning. It is preparing you for the Aries threshold. The third thing this new moon is asking to be surrendered is one I want to speak to with particular care because it requires a quality of honesty that I know can be genuinely difficult. The third surrender is this: the version of the future that was organized around the old structure. Here is what I mean. When we set intentions, when we plan, when we orient our lives towards something, we do so from within the structure that was available to us at the time of the planning. And some of you have been holding visions, plans, intentions, and hopes that were formed in the old structure, in the life as it was before the Saturn-Neptune conjunction restructured the ground, before the eclipse cleared the space, before the equinox announced the new chapter. Those visions were real, those intentions were genuine, and the specific version of the future they pointed toward, the way you imagined the new chapter looking, the form you expected the next relationship to take, the professional structure you'd been planning to build toward, that specific version may be the one thing that is preventing the actual next chapter from coming fully into view. Because the next chapter is being built in the new structure, and it may not look exactly like the version you were imagining in the old one. It may be better. It usually is, in my experience, when people release the specific version and stay open to what the new structure wants to build. But the releasing is necessary. This is what I told Diane, and I want to say it directly to you as well, because it is what the new moon in Pisces, at the degree of the prism, at 28 degrees Pisces, is asking of every one of us in the final hours before Aries season begins. You don't have to know what the colors look like before the prism refracts them. You only have to let the white light enter, what has always been present in you, the full spectrum, all of it, every color will become visible in the refraction. Trust the prism. Trust the light that is already in you, and let go of the requirement that the colors match the version you were expecting. Let me speak directly to the 3 signs most powerfully touched by this Pisces new moon. As always, please check your rising sign. Your rising sign chart tells me which house 28 degrees Pisces is activating in your personal chart, and that is the most specific guidance I can give you. For Pisces and Pisces rising, this new moon falls in your first house of self and identity. The surrender the universe is asking of you is the most intimate possible. The surrender of the self-image you've been maintaining that doesn't quite fit anymore. The story about who you are, what you're capable of, what you deserve, what you're allowed to want, that was built from evidence gathered in the previous cycle and may be limiting what you can step into now. The action for Pisces: write down one belief you hold about yourself that begins with, "I'm not the kind of person who," and ask honestly whether that belief was built from observation or from limitation. If it's limitation, the new moon is the moment to release it. For Virgo and Virgo rising, the new moon activates your 7th house of partnership, and the surrender the cosmos is asking of you is specifically relational. Virgo's gift of discernment, which has been so amplified by the recent eclipse at 12 degrees and 54 minutes of Virgo, can become, when carried into the Pisces house, the habit of cataloging everything a relationship isn't, rather than being present to what it is. The surrender the new moon is asking, the list of reasons why love is risky, or why this person isn't quite right, or why the timing is wrong. One item from that list. Surrender one protective story about relationship that is based on the past rather than the present. Let the new moon's dissolution do what it came to do in the area of your most significant partnerships. For Gemini and Gemini rising, the new moon lands in your 10th house of career and public life. The surrender is professional and reputational, the version of your career path that was organized around what was safe, expected, or approved of in the previous structure. Gemini has 2 versions of every story, and the new moon is asking whether you've been telling yourself the safety version of your professional path when the real version, the one that scares you a little because it is too specifically yours, is the one that Aries season is about to make newly possible. The action for Gemini: identify the version of your professional direction that you've been not quite allowing yourself to say out loud because it sounds too ambitious or too different or too genuinely yours. Write it down before March 20th. Let it be real. Here is the ritual for the new moon in Pisces, because Pisces new moon rituals need to be water-based, darkroom quiet, and focused on releasing rather than initiating. This is a surrender ritual, not a manifestation ritual, and the distinction matters. The best time for this ritual is the evening of March 18th, as close to 9:23 p.m. Eastern as your time zone allows, or within the 6 hours following the new moon's exact moment. This is when the dark moon dissolving energy is at its most potent. What you need: a bowl of water, a piece of paper, and a pen, a single candle, dark blue or white, placed so that its light falls on the water and the paper, and silence or quiet music with no words. Fill the bowl with clean water. Sit quietly with it for a moment. Let yourself feel the darkness of the new moon, the no-light moment, the space between what was and what will be. On the piece of paper, write, in your own words, the specific thing you are choosing to surrender before Aries season begins. Not a list, one thing, clearly named. It might be a story, it might be the requirement for certainty, it might be the specific version of the future you've been holding. Write it, read it once, and then, gently, deliberately, lower the edge of the paper into the bowl of water, not to destroy it, but to let the water receive it. Let it soften in the water. Let the words blur. Then say, out loud while your hands are in the water, I release the need to carry this into the new season. I trust what is growing in the dark. I arrive at Aries empty-handed and open. Say it once, then dry your hands. Let the bowl sit overnight. In the morning, pour the water and what it holds outside onto the earth if possible, or down the drain with intention. Let it return to where water goes. The affirmation for the new moon window from March 18th through March 20th. I surrender the story that limits me. I open to what has always been in the light. I arrive at the threshold ready. 3 months after I responded to Diane, she wrote me again. She told me she had worked with the new moon ritual. She told me that what she surrendered was the meta story, the belief that she makes choices that don't work out, and that the next chapter would probably confirm that pattern. She told me she found it surprisingly difficult to surrender, that it had become a kind of protective companion, that meta story, familiar, reliable, always there to explain the disappointments before they could hurt too much. She told me she was surprised to find, in the days after the ritual, how much lighter her feet felt, how the door didn't feel locked anymore. She walked through it in early April. The project she'd been developing for 2 years went forward in Aries season. I'm not telling you this to promise you any specific outcome. I'm telling you this because what Diane experienced is what Pisces new moons have been offering for as long as I've been watching them. The surrender is real. The lightness that follows is real. And the new chapter, when you arrive at it with your hands genuinely open, that is real too. You are standing at exactly the same threshold Diane was standing at. The door is real. Aries season, with all its ignition and its fresh start Aries energy, is 2 days away. The colors that the equinox prism is about to refract are already in the light you're carrying. The only question is whether you're willing to let the Pisces new moon receive what you've been carrying that isn't part of that light. Tell me in the comments, what is the one thing you're choosing to surrender before Aries season begins? I will be reading every word, and I will be here on the other side of the equinox with everything the new season has to offer. Until next time, keep looking up. This is Luna Solano.